Welcome to Producer's Toolbox. I'm your host, Carole Adrienne, and today we are working on part 2 of a mini-series with Emmy-winning casting directors Diane Heery and Jason Loftus. So we talked last time about preparing to be an actor, and I just want to insert here that we are targeting these discussions to actors of at least 18 years old. Now, in a couple months, we may do another show about child acting, which is a different category and set of requirements. But today, we're really talking about adult and young adult actors. And we are talking about the biggest, scariest part, in my opinion, which is auditions. Now, auditions, as I understand, kind of happen in 2 levels. I mostly use voiceover actors in my work. And when I give the casting director for those, Scott Waz, I give him the lines and the description, and then he'll come back, he'll put them out to his stable of actors and say, here's what's open and we need someone for. So I think for on-screen actors, it's a similar thing. You really want to get into that stable first before you're able to apply for that audition for Night Shyamalan. Anyway, let's talk to Jason and Diane because they actually know, because they are doing serious Hollywood feature films, episodic television, fancy commercials. Thank you so much for joining us. And what do you think? How do we prepare for auditions, and what do we have to expect?
Wow. That's a lot.
Just a short question.
Well, actually, the interesting thing is, because we're casting directors, we don't represent the actors. Mm-hmm. So we don't maintain a stable of actors because we can source the talent from wherever they are. They can be actors with agents, actors without agents. They can be, an actor that I happen to have seen on stage at a community theater one day and thought, oh, he might have a spark we need or whatever. So we can source that actor from wherever. But the difficult thing for an actor to understand is when we do put out a breakdown for a particular role, depending upon the reach that we're looking for, if we want to maintain it, keep it locally, or most times now we also search in New York. So you could easily have 2,000, 3,000 people that are submitting for that one role. So that's your competition. And that's who we look at every one of those submissions to hone it down to who's right for the role. So
wow. Jason, what's your take on that?
It's nuanced. I mean, obviously when, we obviously put a breakdown together, we put it out, agents and sometimes people directly submit. We obviously, like Diane says, we go through it all. In my mind, in the moment, I'm separating COVID world from pre-COVID world. I'm not sure, I guess we're Diane and I would say we're still not completely positive whether we'll be a hybrid of pre-COVID going forward, or we're going to keep going in the way we're going, meaning, we send out for, self-tapes and, things like that. I guess the first thing that pops in my head is how to get noticed. And when you are auditioning for a casting director you may not know, or they're submitting, it's kind of a catch-22 for actors, because beginning actors, we usually don't recommend that they go and they spend $1,000 on headshots and things like that. But the better headshot photographers who aren't cheap, and the quality of that headshot, those people who take them, get you noticed faster. Diane and I when we see a board of thumbnails on our desktop, certain headshots, we try not to let it draw our eye too much, because it can be because it depends on the background or whatever, but certain people's headshots pop. Mm-hmm. You can really see them. You can really get a sense of their personality too. And just depending on how the headshot photographer it took them, there are more modern takes on headshots where they have solid colors behind them, bright colors, things like that. But, so should we go into, I don't know how deep to go in immediately. Do you want to talk about how we select people or what they do once we select them?
Well, I do want to go there, but I have a question first. I looked at your website and there are very specific regulations for submitting an audition tape to you.
Okay, absolutely.
I noticed it says 3 minutes. You don't want to see 5 minutes. You want to see 3, right? Mm-hmm. But it's very specific. And I thought that's an important thing. I mean, really in anything, whether it's film and television or whether it's publishing, people are telling you exactly how they want it submitted. And I always think that's a pretty important thing to work within those lines. Is it? Absolutely.
Part of anything is reading the instructions. When you get an opportunity to audition for something, always read with that particular casting director how they're asking you to submit your video. There's specific reasons for that, which I can go into. There's two different things. When we have on our website, that's a general open call audition. We prefer people keep those to 3 minutes because, quite honestly, Diane and I can watch someone's reel or whatever and really see if they're right for the role or, if they have talent, if they fit what's going on really within the first 15 seconds of the video. But why the instructions are so important, because as Diane said, the thousands of submissions that come in, part of your audition is, can I follow instructions? Quite honestly, often directors will narrow people down by people who just followed their simple directions. Like if they ask for you to put the slate, which is your name, height, and whatever, at the beginning of the video or at the end of the video, did they, we want you to do 2 takes. We want you to do the first one this way and the second one this way. Depending on the service you're uploading all this stuff to, you can put them as individual videos or you just put them together. That's a little bit more technical. But following instructions is really important because the people that Diane and I work with are incredibly technical people. They're people that are into editing. They're into filmmaking. They're into composition. They're into very technical sides of filmmaking. And one minor problem that, people have gotten better at through the pandemic is people who are filming their audition from home. They do things like film their audition in their bathroom or film the audition in their bedroom. And in the background, in either of those 2 scenarios, I can give you probably a litany or a list of things we've seen in the background that we wish we hadn't. And it's stuff people just aren't thinking about. So, in a self-tape situation, you want to have like a just basic background, simple lighting is easy and we could kind of go through all that. But, again, just to kind of put a button on that, it's so many people struggle with the instructions part of it that they don't even make it to the plate. It's kind of like being on deck. And then when the director's watching your video and trying to discern, when you don't follow the instructions, you don't even make it to the plate.
Mm-hmm. It says so much about working with somebody in any capacity if you realize that they're not going to follow the instructions. And I understand, as humans, we're kind of like, oh, if they just see me do this, they'll love me. But that's not what you want to see. And you want to gauge everybody in the same fair way.
Well, so for instance, though, like on our website, those instructions are for people we have a section for, it's like Jason said, it's an open call. where you're sending in your demo reel. It's not for a particular role. Mm-hmm. It's a general thing just for us to get to know you and what your talent is. So the harder part for the actor is finding the right material, because you get to choose what material you're going to put on that demo reel. It's not in an audition for a particular role. We're going to send you the actual script pages, and that's what you'll audition for. But on the general open call thing, that's you. You get to decide what you're showing us, and you get to show, this is my best. So if it's not your best, but you think it's your best, well, that kind of colors how we think about you, because you don't understand where you are and what level you are. If you think this is your absolute best, well, we'll have to think twice about it. But then there's other people who, they send something in and it's really, you see that spark and you see the wonderfulness, and we're more forgiving on those open call tapes than on the technical side of it, because it's just for Jason and I. Nobody else sees them. So we're much more forgiving on that level because we understand that. But when it's an audition that's going to go to the director for a big TV show or for a movie, that's when we're going to be a little bit more discerning on how it looks technically as well.
I mean, one thing to really kind of bring up is what, Diane and I, being that we're based in, Philly, New Jersey area, we see ourselves as being, we get a lot of talent that doesn't have a lot of experience. And it's kind of our way of bringing them along as we start giving them opportunities to do things and to kind of learn. And then eventually we're putting them in front of, before they know it, we're putting them in front of, Night Shyamalan or whoever it may be. And, that's kind of unique to where we were, which is kind of different than LA and New York. I mean, if you go to LA and New York and you don't have a lot of experience, it's going to be like rowing, against the current. Whereas in our market, it's more forgivable. And we can, especially when we used to have auditions in person, we could, kind of give talent training on how to audition and things like that. And we kind of have a little bit more leeway as we go. It's a little bit of a difference in us and New York and LA.
You guys said an interesting thing when we spoke the other day about memory, and that it was one of your most important tools as casting directors. And that rang a bell with me, because I know, just as a producer, noticing some people just shine right off the screen, or their voices, like you're leaning in to get every word. So you said it could be a couple years later and you think, okay, what about that guy who did this audition? And you're bringing him in for Night Shyamalan's audition. Do you notice that the true shining stars are few and far between, or is there really lots of raw talent out there?
That's a tough one. I think there's a lot of when you're talking different types of roles. Mm-hmm. So you take an actor like Steve Buscemi, and he's not even a great example because he's done so many great roles. But if you look early in his career, they weren't bringing him in to be the male lead. Right. He was brought in to do a specific thing. They whatever that role was. There's people who have certain looks that it's why they book, and they do that character really, really well. If you asked, Ray Liotta to be the lead in Les Mis, it wouldn't have worked. So, but Ray Liotta in the roles that he played was unbelievable. So I hope that kind of, so not only do Diane and I have to remember people, but we also have to remember things about them that we think fit a character we're trying to cast, that, and that person who has that thing that is believable in that situation.
it sounds like you guys really have to look a little deeper because you're also looking at the possibilities of a given potential actor, as well as, I mean, maybe they're auditioning for Little Red Riding Hood, but you're seeing they could do Maleficent kind of thing. Is it like that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just, and I guess that's part of it is that, we have like this Rolodex in our brains of people. And what is kind of fun many times, I'll yell at Jason from the other room, hey, so-and-so, remember, and I don't even say the name, I'll go, that guy. And then he'll blow it, he'll scream out, oh no, that guy. And we know exactly who we're talking about to each other. But it's remembering, that guy, but going, he would really be interesting. We should give him a shot at this different role. But on the other hand, part of our job also is to shake the tree a little bit. So many times we'll bring in an actor who's totally off topic of what the role's supposed to be. So if they're saying, we're looking to be, this should be, a doctor type, and then we bring in somebody who's no way in the world you would think of as a doctor, just to show them something different in what the world could look like in their project. And many times it has changed the director's mind. They go, oh, I never thought of it that way. And that's a big part of what we do too, is showing them options that could help color what the cast looks like in feel and tone as well.
That really blew me away, because you're influencing the producer or the director. You're really trying to broaden their view as well. You're bringing a vision into it that they may not have had.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that, obviously I'll say again, Diane's been doing this longer than I have. She's taught me a lot about this business, but really, that is something Diane taught me from the beginning, every role is to throw wild cards in, and people who are out of type. And, we can speak plainly, they're looking for a male Caucasian as a doctor. Well, Diane taught me from the beginning to throw wild cards in, throw, other races, other genders, all the way through. And to be completely honest, it's a huge part of our success, because, directors see that and they're like, I never thought of that. That looks great. That tells a better story, and
you're adding a dimension.
Yes. Yeah. It's the world we live in too. I mean, there's a lot of, things that movies for a long time did not reflect the world we live in. And I think you're seeing, more and more movies and TV shows try to reflect the world as it actually looks. And, it's important, it's important for storytelling and, being truthful and honest. And, it's something that, we've done for a long time and has helped us be, successful.
That's an important thing for actors to know, I would think, that going in, and I would not have thought of that. If somebody has said, well, I've always played nurses. I'm usually like the second run nurse or, the assistant. And so should you see something different in them? Like, well, I see you as a clinical physician. The actor has to be ready to say, whoa, I must have that in me, and pull it out somehow. And the actor also needs to have trust in what we're asking of them, because many times, we'll bring in somebody, say, to play this, and they're like, oh, I've never done that kind of thing. That's not. Well, then if you feel it's not in you and you don't have confidence in yourself to give it a try, okay. But many times it is that thing that maybe you should give it a try, because as an actor, you want to be able to be versatile. And if you hadn't seen yourself that way, maybe you need to challenge yourself into looking at other things. But if, if we're asking for, a casting director is asking for you for a role, it's okay to make one question, say, well, the breakdown does say the character needs to be 6'3" and I'm only 5'10". It's okay to question that, but then we can come back and say, no, we've changed it. It doesn't matter how tall you are. Okay, and then you do it. Don't question it. But too many times an actor second guesses the opportunity of an audition. Don't blow off that audition, because
you may not get that audition, but you'll get remembered for the next one in the future.
And once you've gotten into that arena of being assessed by an actual reputable, serious casting director, it would behoove one, I think, to say yes to whatever. You want me to try this? You want a French accent? What? Do it. I mean, because you're in there, and sometimes you only get that one opportunity, as Eminem would say. Don't blow it. So
it's very true. I mean, and again, just because we were talking about it now, Mayor of Easttown's in my head. There were so many people that we were auditioning that were like, I can't do that accent. And then they'd listen to it, and then they'd go through it. Then all of a sudden they had it, and they did the audition. They just gave them, they believed enough in themselves to at least listen and try it. And, that's a big part of acting is being open to situations and, giving it a run, and go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I just think think it kind of says that a lot of times we don't realize the non-limits of our own versatility. I mean, you could look at an actor like Johnny Depp, obviously, who from Edward Scissorhands to, the one with the cops. I mean, he plays such different roles. Mm-hmm. And no, he could have gotten typecast in the beginning. He could have only done Tim Burton films or something and not other serious dramas. So I think that's a really important message that you have to actors, to be open, to let yourself expand, let yourself be coached into the unknown, because it might really be a wonderful place to be.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen a lot of actors who sabotage themselves. And you said something earlier that made me laugh, which was true of a lot of actors. When you were saying you're a kid, you wanted to be in the play, but you only wanted to play the princess because you didn't want. There is a lot of people get into acting because they want to be Brad Pitt. They want to be Jennifer Aniston. They want to be those characters. But I mean, I would say that a lot of times they're not playing the most interesting actors. They're kind of always playing the same thing. I mean, without insulting them. But your individuality and the things that make you are going to be the things that carry you through and help you book. There's an actor in Philadelphia who is physically a really big man. He's, imposing. I don't know if I should say his name or not, but he's, and he has a certain look about him, and he honestly could do any role, because he's confident. He gives it he's honest, and it doesn't hold him back, so I think that is like we talked about at the very, very beginning of all this. Actors need to learn. It's hard for you to look in the mirror and say, I can play these kinds of roles. I can do this, and be honest about it, because in the end, it's going to be what carries you. Again, like I bring up Steve Buscemi, his physicality with his teeth and his look, that carried him. He didn't go get his teeth fixed for the movies. The more reality, especially these days, the more reality that you bring to a role, meaning like the more real life stuff you see, the better off you'll be. There's a big movement in filmmaking to move away from everyone's beautiful, Mm-hmm. So what makes you and unique is what's going to carry you through.
Yeah.
That's important. I mean, you guys have brought up a number of really significant things regarding the auditioning. The first of which is, as an actor, can you follow directions? And frequently those directions are right on the website. And then you really have to open yourself to the casting directors and what their suggestions are, because they may find something in you that you weren't expecting was even there. But do you each have like one more piece of advice we're at the 2-minute point, and what would you say to somebody who's been in acting classes and getting ready to do an audition tape and hopefully get real auditions for Night Shyamalan?
I think it just really comes down to having the confidence in yourself. Like I had said earlier, it is that know thyself thing. And once, you've done your research, you've done your homework, you just need to be able to just lay it out there, have confidence in yourself. And if you know you're doing a good job, then just let that sit, because you may not get that job, but there may be others down the pike. So you want, just take each one as it goes and just keep improving on it each time you go out for an audition, and make each one a learning experience, whether or not you book it.
That's a really good piece of advice. Jason, what have you got? You want to add to that?
One thing that I think is important for any actor is, especially as you're going down this path of being actors, is to have as many life experience as you can. There's, a lot of the best actors have had multiple careers, have had multiple different things that they were involved in that they can bring to being an actor. There's experiences that make you unique that other people may not have, that may help you get a job down the road. So my advice would be is, we're telling stories, and those stories can be about anything. Mm-hmm. So life experience and helps you. You never know how it could help you get a role. You never know how it can help you, tap into it to give your best performance. So having life experience and doing things and going out in the world and experiencing it is just as important to being an actor as it is to being, any career.
Wow. That is great advice. I'm so grateful to Jason and Diane. We really hope you'll come back and talk with us again, because I think there are an awful lot of people out there who would love to try acting, but you really need to know what you're getting into. So I would say follow those instructions. You can go to the Heery Loftus website. We will put that up at the end, and follow the instructions and work on your skills and your audition tape. And we look forward to seeing you again on Producer's Toolbox. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.